This podcast was created during the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Fortunately for us, the WGA seems to have reached a tentative agreement with AMTPT. However, SAG-AFTRA has not yet. So please continue to support the Entertainment Community Fund. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thanks.
Morghese, the Queen of Andor, has issued the following proclamation. This podcast shall be discussing the most recent episode of Wheel of Time. If you have not seen that episode and do not wish to be spoiled, go witness the Dragon Reborn in the latest episode and then return. So it is written, so shall it be done. Hey.
Welcome back to Bustin' Blockbusters. Matt here with you, soon to be joined by Priscilla and Bubba as we continue our conversation about the season of Wheel of Time and Season 2, Episode 8. We're going to jump right in. I want to thank you all for sticking around and remind you that we will have a book reader special podcast coming up. The way my schedule was, I could not complete that with Priscilla last time. We're working on being able to reschedule that, and we will get it out to the podcast listening audience as well as to the YouTube audience as soon as is possible. Hoping also to have some other guests, but more on that later. Let's jump back into our conversation, continuing with the tiny wheel of topics. Speaking of Egwene, that's where the wheel landed.
Wonderful.
So let's talk about this. Go ahead, Bubba. Tell me what you think.
Again, they made the audience feel empathy for this character. She was so likable in season 1. She's likable in season 2. You understand her. You see her developing friendships with a new character in Elayne. The audience cares about Egwene. And so what is emotional? What's going to rock the audience? Having a dog die that we spent a couple episodes with? No. Seeing Egwene, who we've come to care about in a horrific situation, and then her overcoming that situation, using her brains, using her strength to get revenge. Like, we don't in our lives want to kill another person. Let's hope that's true. But to see someone in an unjust situation like Egwene was, to see her overcome that obstacle and come out the other side victorious, it is wonderful. It is great. She is a great character. I called it Egwene Unchained. That's what we wanted. The show made us care and want her to be unchained. 10 out of 10, no notes for Wheel of Time Season 2 on Egwene. That's my thought.
Go ahead, Priscilla. I know that this subject is a little bit touchy for you because there are a lot of issues that have occurred in this season that make this tough for you to talk about. So whatever you feel comfortable talking about is fine. Because I mean, let me. I hate to put an earworm or to put a bug in your ear here regarding this, but the length that Egwene had to go to in order to free herself, which is different from the books, was murder. How do we reconcile that? Is what was done to her, well, and slavery is, I don't, man, it's hard to quantify this stuff, and I'm not trying to. Slavery and this kind of torture is absolutely unspeakably evil. I mean, it's to the point where you don't even want to talk about it, and I understand that. But can we say that the murder is justifiable? Because she has a chance to free her and let her go. He chooses to watch her die. And she promised that she would do that. But how does it make you feel? Does that place any shade on Egwene's character? Unlike Bubba, who gave this 10 out of 10, to me, that makes me worry about Egwene just a little bit. There are many strong feelings she has about the Shan throughout the rest of the course of the series of the books. That is completely understandable given what we saw in book 2 and in this episode. or in the prior episodes. But where are we at with the links that she went to that extended beyond her getting free of that situation?
I don't think we can judge a victim of, like, I don't think we can judge a person that has gone through that trauma. And I don't think that Egwene, like the character, the way we saw it, I don't think herself that she processed it, because exactly like a second afterwards, she's like devastated before Rand appears.
It's true.
So I don't think it was something that, like, you know, you cannot talk about how a victim reacts to a trauma, a traumatic. You know, like you can go through a lot of cases where people are kidnapped, like things awful happen, they have a chance to run, they don't until they can, and what do they do with the captors? Right. So I don't feel comfortable judging, saying that like it was an ethical grievance of mine, because I'm not passing through what she went through, so I cannot say, hey, yeah, you know, Egwene, you cross the line there, you murdered. Obviously, like it's different in the books. Like I think Nynaeve is the one who pulls her, right?
Right.
But Nynaeve was not there. She's older now, and we saw exactly how that affected her. We saw the whole humiliations, condensation, the violence, the threats. I think I'm not here to blame a victim. She's a victim.
Okay.
Matt, you feel very, it feels like you're very passionate about your take here. Do you feel good? Have you got everything out that you wanted to say? I certainly don't want to cut you off.
No, I feel fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Matt,
so let's talk about
more.
this part, though. Let's talk about this part. Obviously, we were seeing Egwene struggle with what she was doing to hold Ishamael off.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we know that she's a very powerful Aes Sedai among the ones that we have seen. But was it too much? Because, again, we did see her struggle, but we also saw just earlier in this season, Liandrin just take her out like that in the tower when she confronted her at the fire with the ring.
No,
so,
like,
why would a Forsaken have had that much trouble?
I don't think that, like, every time we saw, like, Egwene tried to attack Liandrin, right? So it was an offensive weave. And Egwene tried to attack Ishamael.
Egwene also tried to shield herself from Liandrin's attack and wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, but then Ishamael didn't see her coming. And she was defending Rand.
Ishamael totally saw her coming.
Cares. She loves Rand. Where is the power of love?
The love is the power that made her super strong.
Yeah, and she's just holding. She's even apologized to Rand because she cannot hold anymore. And then
Perrin comes in and helps, with the magic shield.
So I understood, like, and okay. I mean,
I'm just making points so that I can create some arguments. That's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to create some arguments.
You're succeeding, Matt. Great job. I would say that if the issue is that people's power levels need to be almost where the story wants them to be. So at this point, I'm this powerful, but if I need to be captured, suddenly I'm less powerful. I get it. What I would say is at the end of last season, didn't she destroy a whole army of Trollocs and evil beings?
Yeah, but that was the combined power of a whole bunch of channelers.
I don't mind it. I understand where the story is going emotionally.
So you're telling me I can just adjust I can just adjust the smoke
Bubba,
monsters level in
Bubba
Lost
is
to whatever level I want because the story needs it.
Didn't they on
Bubba, you're
Lost?
so
And you loved
evil.
Lost. Yes. In other words, that's what they did on
But what I'm
Lost,
saying
and you
is that's
loved
one
that
of those
show.
storytelling points that you're always against.
Bubba is now talking about emotions and feelings. I don't understand, Bubba.
I would say that it didn't come across as, wait a minute, how is this possible in the moment? Because
Yeah.
this is the end of the story. You understand that,
Mm-hmm. Oh, there is also something. Egwene was not struggling with her training under the Aes Sedai, but she was being very overlooked. No? Like she made some pretty convincing advances in her training under the Sudam also. So it could be like a mixture of things, like her being more confident after facing off, her like the love that she felt for Rand. So I mean, I don't think it was that far-fetched. And she was just shielding it. And she was already losing it anyway when Perrin arrived. So it was just like, 30 seconds of shielding. So I don't know why people are making so much fuss about that. They just want to talk about it. She's defending her boy.
Okay.
When you get your boy there, you do things that, Lanfear gets the boy, she does things. Egwene gets the boy, she does things. Possibly Elayne gets the boy, she's already doing things for the boy. That boy is like very good. Everybody wants to.
Well, it's a good thing that the wheel has already landed on Nynaeve and Elayne, so that we can talk about that real briefly. This was a very underserved story to me in this finale. And I think part of it is due to the fact that they needed to have Egwene liberate herself. And that's a big portion of Nynaeve's story at the end of book 2, is her and Elayne working together in order to help Egwene get away. So that kind of left them high and dry with what to do. But the thing that I didn't understand was how Nynaeve Bubba, did you get the sense that Nynaeve is having some kind of crisis of confidence? Because she isn't even being a very good wisdom at the time with Elayne, let alone being able to channel or anything. I mean, pushing that arrow through and then not cauterizing a wound, not cauterizing it, not doing anything that a wisdom would do.
I thought that this storyline, all the Egwene, Elayne, and Nynaeve story, was great all season long. It felt like, and I agree with you, Matt, I agree with the showrunners, that if they decided Egwene needs to be her own hero, her own champion, I think that's exactly right. But then that does mean you have to have Nynaeve and Elayne capturing a Seanchan and entering that kind of world. It does have to pay off some way. Maybe they don't save Egwene. Maybe they are part of the team that helps defeat the Seanchan in a different way using this woman they collared. So instead, it felt like, okay, we're just going to stop this. And it's almost like, why are we pulling away Nynaeve's power? We're pulling her power away because in the most obvious, ridiculously foreshadowed shot of all, we need Rand and Elayne to meet cute and him look at this dreamy Elayne healing him. And so we're just going to come up with a reason for Nynaeve to be powerless. A bit like I feel like the way they did with Moiraine and Lan about, well, we just need them to have something so these other stories can go the way they need it to. Once again, if you have Nynaeve and Elayne, do something with this Seanchan that they collared and help them, okay, we can't get to Egwene, but instead we do something to help the effort in a different way. To me, that's the way you do it. Instead, it came up with this, Nynaeve almost being so shocked by controlling the collar and controlling this Seanchan woman that she does, have PTSD or something. To me, it didn't work. If next season, maybe she's still dealing with the post-traumatic stress of collaring another person, maybe I'll forgive this. But it felt like after doing so great the whole season, this story didn't have the Egwene high that it should have, in my opinion.
I mean, I could try to defend it, like saying that it does illustrate the point that Leandrin was trying to make, that it doesn't, like, Nynaeve has a block. It doesn't help that she is like the most powerful channeler if she has a block and if she cannot go under pressure. Like, she's not at this point, Nynaeve wouldn't survive if there was no for the plot needing her to survive in that time. But I have to say that it failed. This the ending of her arc. It didn't land because I didn't understand what was the point. You know, if the point was to show that she's because there is a scene where the Sudan, like the Sudan they captured that she colored, she dies, and then Nynaeve gets the backlash because they are linked together. So if the intention was to say, hey, Nynaeve cannot act because she's under the backlash of the breaking the link, and she's under stress, then she should be completely out. She should be completely out, like, and no, but she seemed to recover and she was there, and she didn't even try to do the wisdom. If the motivation was, we have just to delay them a little bit, so then Elayne can come and heal Rand. Nothing could have stopped Nynaeve from healing Elayne. She could heal Elayne. They could go like slowly there and arrive the last, and then Nynaeve is consoling Matt, and Elayne is healing Rand. It could have happened. Like, they could have made it.
See,
but they didn't know what they were doing. I don't think they knew what the motivation was, except to say, hey, Nynaeve cannot work under stress.
Yeah. So,
and we saw her working under stress several times before. So
the other thing that happened with that Suldam was it allowed an out for Egwene to be able to watch Rhenna die and not die herself. Because the Suldam got shot in the neck and died. Nynaeve didn't. This way you can have Egwene kill Rhenna and Egwene not die.
Yeah, I didn't.
They reinforce each other. I'm not saying that it goes against what the dialogue said all season long, but maybe you can say, well, maybe the Suldam don't really know that because I haven't really tried it, although I kind of doubt that. So, but I'm just saying that because they reinforce each other in the same episode, you don't question that.
Yeah. I don't know, like, for the show canon, they are all Taviran, right? The 5.
All 5 are Taviran, yeah.
Yeah, so is that at play too? I don't know.
Could be. I agree,
yeah, because like the way Nynaeve reacts is like she's dying, but she doesn't. No, she has this backlash, and I don't know. And Egwene is like she's controlling the backlash. We saw her struggling when Rhenna is dying. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Gray area.
Much like these videos. Very gray.
Right. Filled with gray.
Okay. Anything else on that? I mean, come on. Elayne didn't even introduce herself as the daughter to Andor. She just said,
no.
She said, who are you? And she said, Elayne.
Okay, let me try to predict.
Reckless speculation. Reckless speculation.
So obviously
it's Rand.
Right. It's obviously Rand is going to fall with Elayne, probably because Egwene has been so changed by what she went through that she's certainly not going to be in a place for a relationship. He's kind of gone through a big change too, being officially announced as the dragon. So, you know, he and Egwene's relationship will kind of continue to be a fall apart, and Elayne will be Rand's new girlfriend. It feels like all 3 of these characters need to go back to the tower and, for lack of a better word, complete their training. Even though Nynaeve is an official Aes Sedai, it feels like next season They should all start back at the tower saying, okay, we had these issues. We gotta become even more powerful. And what's funny is it felt like Ishmael, the fact that we found out that Ishmael was kind of friends with the original dragon, in that, they kind of started fighting and they turned to the dark. It really feels like, well, okay, some of these characters who are Rand's friends have to turn to the dark. Will it be Egwene because she went through such a dark experience? Will it be Nynaeve because she has to be angry to really abuse her power? It doesn't feel like it'll be Matt. It felt like Matt just proved, okay, I'm not going to be, I'm a hero of the Horn. I'm not going to be turning to the dark like those visions when I drank the tea implied. It also feels like Perrin, because we spent so much time in season 1 talking about nonviolence, that Perrin is not going to turn to the dark because he's going to really turn to nonviolence. So, it really does feel like it has to be Egwene or Nynaeve, one of the 5 F to turn. That feels, just looking at the story. Or Rand himself would be the next one, I guess. Rand really is the next one to turn.
Okay.
Okay.
Or at least be tempted by the darkness, right? That's what has to happen next.
Bubba is telling a grim story here, ladies and gentlemen. Bubba is becoming a storyteller, and he's telling a grim story.
Well, this is where the story is going. I'm not telling it. I'm saying where the story itself is going.
Well, you're saying where it's going before you know where it's going.
No, I'm not.
No,
what planet
he's not
are you
saying
on?
what he's trying to figure things out. He's just like putting his thoughts out.
Right. The story.
Don't be that hard
I didn't decide that Ishmael and Lou Theron used to be friends. No, the show decided that they used to be friends and one turned to the dark.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that all of them have to. I know that Lance said that just like these kids to Moiraine.
Right. No, I'm not saying all of them do. I'm saying theoretically one of them do. You don't set up this parallel if you don't intend to go there.
Well, see, now you're reading into foreshadowing and kinds of things, and I don't know that.
Right, exactly. Why did the show foreshadow it then? Why it's not me?
They didn't. They gave you a history. Maybe this story will be different because they don't.
Okay,
that's how they actually win in the end.
Maybe that'll be different. But if you're telling me none of these characters will be tempted to go to the dark, you're crazy. You don't know how story works.
Well, we saw one
if Robert Jordan doesn't have one of them turn toward, if Robert Jordan doesn't have them start to be tempted in turning to the dark, I'm not saying they can't revert back or they go the full way to the shadow, but this is the story he's telling. If he doesn't do it, he did a terrible job telling it.
Bubba has spoken.
Okay, Bubba.
Yes.
We saw the first season.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about Matt. Is he's going to be evil with the dagger or not?
Yes.
And this season, we saw everybody wondering is Matt going to kill Rand? Is Matt going to turn evil?
Yes.
And Ishmael's plan all along. I want to turn Rand's friends to our side so that we either break Rand or he comes to us, because it all hinges on his choice. They cannot force Rand to do something. They can either not neutralize Rand, which was what Ishmael was trying to do in his plan B. It's like neutralize Rand and then wait for another turn of the wheel to have his whole fight, or make him decide to join the shadow. The whole point of this foreshadowing of Lan, exactly like these kids, was because the wheel, when the wheel turns, it doesn't. It puts the same characters, the same souls in the same situations, but their choices might be different. In the case of when Lanfear is asked by Ishmael, okay, Rand, what kind of man is Rand? Is he a little bit like Louis? And she says, yes, but he is like sweeter and stuff. he is nothing like Louis. He's not manipulative. He's just a sweet kid with nice friends. And that's the point of this turn of the wheel. They are friends. So they are choosing each other at that period. And this was something that the original dragon could not have. So Ishamael turned, Lanfear turned. That's the story that the show is telling. Oh, they were friends, but they got against each other at some point. And will the kids will be the same with the kids? And it's already like, no. The 5 of them are together at the end.
Yeah, well, I think that whole line about them, I think the whole line about about the kids being friends, like Lanfear and Ishmael and Lews Therin, was simply to put tension in the episode. I don't think it has any long stemming ramifications whatsoever.
No, I think it was there just to show you the difference between this turn and the other turn. Like, Rand is not Louis. He's not that man, or maybe not that man yet. So the choices are already made and they're already there. And like he's someone that has a lot of help. Like Lanfear spent the whole season helping him behind the scenes, and he has friends, and this is something that you don't get like from the conversations with Lanfear and Ishamael. They are all like friends that stab each other in the back. They are friends, but they are not.
I'm once again, I'm not saying that any of them will turn to the dark. I'm going to say they're all you're telling me this book series goes 14 books. They're going to be tempted again. To me, it would make more storytelling sense that one actually does turn, and not that they can't turn back. I don't know the rules of this theater. I'm just saying that's the way theoretically it would go. That's the way it would go. That's the only way I could see it going. So there.
Bubba has spoken.
Let's get to Matt and let's talk about it. Matt was tempted. He was tempted last season, and he was, shown a lot of horrific stuff this season. But in the end, he didn't, even though he's addicted to this darn knife, right? This dagger, this blade of evilness. It's
cocaine.
Right, his cocaine. He didn't turn. So if you're not going to turn him now as a non-book reader, I don't think Matt is going to turn. I think this is one of those moments where he blew the horn and he saw these other heroes and they say, hey, we're heroes of the horn. You're a hero of the horn. To me, unless something really goes off the rails, I have a hard time seeing them play this trick again with Matt to where, he's tempted to turn dark again. It's like he had his turn to be tempted to the darkness and he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing, like the season established firmly the characters with their powers, right? So Rand is the Dragon Reborn, Egwene is the survivor, the smart one. Nynaeve is the powerhouse who is blocked.
Right.
Perrin has the wolf connection,
right?
The wolf power, and now Matt is the hero of the horn. The big question is, will Matt get a new wardrobe next season?
You know what? It'd be great if like the other heroes of the horn came back and he's like, I didn't.
They all had good wardrobes.
Right. Matt is the point. This is the point. They come back. He's like, well, I didn't blow the horn. Why are you guys here? And they're like, you smell. Get out of this. Get out of this burlap and put on some clothes. Right. You're embarrassing us.
We need a fashion intervention here. Yeah.
Yeah. All the other characters had their powers, had their wardrobes. Matt was the last one to get the power. Now he only needs the wardrobe.
Heck yeah.
All right. So the whole Matt storyline was really cool. I do love how they paid one of the things that TV viewers learn over the course of this season is that we see Matt stab Rand. That absolutely came true, just not in the way that we saw it. That's a very important thing to consider when it comes to Min. Now go back to season 1 and look at all those little visions that she saw over the other Ta'veren when they were in the bar. Think about those things.
Right. Okay.
So think about that. So think about, because we know that it's an actual thing that happens, but it doesn't necessarily happen in the way that you see it. I'm not going to tell you what any of those things mean, even though I think I recognized several of them and what they meant at the time.
Can you tell me? I want to be
in the book
spoiled.
reader section, I can.
Okay.
But I want TV only people to go back, now that we understand the way that the rules work for Mint's visions, to go back to that scene in the bar in Faldara and figure out what it is that you think you see. Some of it may not be too apparent unless you're a book reader, but some of it might. So I just want to encourage you all to do that.
Man, if you're Min, you got to feel terrible. You're like, boy, my visions really are, they're only so helpful.
Why do you think she wanted to get rid of them?
Say that again. These don't help me at all.
Yeah. It's like actually, give me what the next dice roll specifically will be.
Yes, please.
Or tell me how much this guy's going to tip me so I know whether to really actually serve him or not. Those kinds of things would be very helpful to Min. But instead, she just wants to get rid of them. And we had to just get rid of her for this finale, which totally made me mad. But back to Rand. All of these heroes of the Horn, I believe that I saw one. Some of them didn't say a word, and they won't. You may or may not see them again. One of them, I think, that didn't say a word. You will, and I'm not going to say who. One of them was somebody that we've already heard talked about in this show a lot, and that was the big guy who said we fought side by side. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Arthur Hawkwing, baby. That's the guy that we heard in season 1 made the Aes Sedai start to take those oaths.
Wow.
That conversation between Egwene and Moiraine back in season 1.
Oh.
Wow.
And he's the ancestor of the evil slavers, right?
What's that?
He's the ancestor of the evil slavers too.
I believe that the Shan have mentioned Arthur Hawkwing themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So
you're putting together.
Now put this together, though. This is a hero of the Horn, yet he's spawned a culture that uses channelers like slaves. He's also been the guy that put restrictions on the Aes Sedai. Kind of a weird conflict of interest there, isn't it?
He's a weird one, yeah.
Just thought I'd point that out.
Keep pointing stuff like that out. That's great.
Matt.
One time, Matt, point it out.
And the other one's name starts with a B. That's all I'll say.
Ooh, okay.
Not that B. A different kind of B. A BR. Not a book reader.
But that's, Matt, you cut me off before I could say it.
Okay. I like the way the Horn looked. It's not quite the way I imagined it in the books. There's a chapter emblem of it in all of the books. I loved the spear, the way that he created it, even though I'll have some concerns about that in book reader section. And I kind of mentioned them a little bit earlier with foxes and snakes. The other thing that I really enjoyed was seeing that skill. And now, evidently, as somebody who has erected the Heroes of the Horn, he's suddenly speaking in the old tongue like it's nobody's business. And what he said, and this is very interesting because, Bubba, I think I've told you about his thing with luck before, even though it hasn't really, he's had his we've seen him have a time or two with dice in the show. But Dovai Ande Satoya Saigain, which, sorry, folks, to book readers, I absolutely apologize for the way I pronounce that. But it translates, according to Decider.com, translates to, it's time to roll the dice.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So this guy's fluent in that. So he's got, how long will he retain his memories after the Heroes of the Horn are gone? That's something that's interesting. Forever. So until he returns among their numbers, where he has to be called by a horn again.
he's the only one who can blow the horn, right?
I don't know.
Right now.
I don't know how the rules on that one work either, to be perfectly honest,
No, but
especially for the television show.
in the books, he's the only
Well,
one.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how the television show is going to treat it.
I don't think they are going to change it. They are making the horn his power.
Well, she also took
Right?
back the horn. Remember the gal next to Arthur Hawkwing on the other side?
Well,
she took it back and put it away.
When he needs it, the horn will immediately and magically appear to him.
Okay. Well, just like a perfectly lengthed and shaped rod and some stripping that he could use to make a spear magically appeared.
No, clouds are going to part, and like the god's hand will just go. No.
A big hand comes out of the clouds and says, "You need this horn, baby." No, I love the making of the spear too. I thought that was great. I thought the music for that was great too. I thought it kind of gave you that bouncy Matt back when he was at his lowest point. Very clever of Matt to create that spear. Any other thoughts on Matt?
Yeah.
He did something. I love it. Thank God.
He did something. I love it.
He didn't just stare at people walking into the ways.
No.
He didn't just let a single tear down.
He wasn't locked in a cell.
Didn't share a drink with the men.
Right.
He didn't watch Rand walk away thinking that, that was going to be, that he was going to go help him and didn't do anything. Finally, Matt gets some redemption. He did manage to fire off a good one-liner to Ishmael in one episode, but I don't remember what that line was now. Is this a sex thing or something like that? It was funny.
Yeah.
That was that was very much a Matt thing. But yeah, I loved all of the Matt storyline. Even though, again, we can talk more about it in book section.
There's your favorite character, Rand, the most important character. How could you forget him, Matt? Shameful.
I mean,
we love Rand.
I'm just so disappointed in Rafe.
No,
he did absolutely nothing this season to make me hate Rand, except for the fact that he's already flirting with a new girl right in front of his girlfriend. That's not cool, man.
Matt, we already discussed his relationship with Egwene died when he died.
He ghosted.
I've been caught in my own stuff. Yeah.
He ghosted, yeah. Egwene is no.
Well,
Egwene even thought he was like a ghost when he
what do you think about
her.
Rand being proclaimed Kara Khan by Aviendha? If you recall, she said she was seeking that. That's what she told Perrin. The whole reason they'd come over, they were seeking the Kara Khan. I will tell you, Kara Khan translates into Chief of Chiefs, or Chief of all Chiefs, I believe, in the Aiel language, or the Old Tongue, basically. So she's looking for the Aiel #1 commando. She's going to endorse Rand to be president. Of the Aiel waste.
Aiel. And he was born Aiel, so it all makes sense. Perfect.
All right. Now how she got that from a dragon flying around, a flamed dragon, I'm not quite sure.
I think you see a giant flame dragon. Come on. You see a giant flaming dragon, it doesn't matter anything. You just say, okay, that's it.
The interesting thing is that
Chief of Chiefs.
As a book reader, there are Aiel prophecies about the Kara Khan, and they are very similar to what we call the Corinthian cycle, which are prophecies about the dragon, one of which was, banner in the sky and fire that we heard all this season. So maybe there was enough of a similarity there that she would instantly recognize. That I can grant the showrunners. Otherwise, I was kind of like, boy, Aviendha's jumping to conclusions.
It's 10 times better than the Harry Potter. He gets like this stupid scar on his
The lightning scar
forehead.
Is the best disfigurement in the history of literature.
It's like, oh no.
Was it was it Rand's right hand or left hand that got the scar? I can't remember. It was his left.
It was his
right?
left. Yeah,
Okay.
it was his left hand.
Oh,
And that's because I didn't catch it the first time. I had to actually go back and rewatch it. But there's a heron mark actually on the blade, and I thought, well, his hand is above where the heron mark on the handle would be. But in actuality, there is a heron mark on the blade itself, and he actually was holding on to the blade, not the handle, and that's why, of course, it was hot and it burned. I guess burned it into him. So there's also a prophecy about him being branded. So there's something to that.
you can use that to hate him. He destroyed
Because he doesn't know how to hold a sword. Yeah.
No, he destroyed his father's sword. It was like, it's not even his.
Well,
it's his father's.
I'm more mad at him for making modifications because I don't remember there being a heron mark on that handle ever until he faced Turok and did the Indiana Jones thing.
Yeah, Turok was so fun.
That was hilarious. I loved that moment. I mean, I know it's been done, and yes, it was obviously a direct homage to the Indiana Jones shooting the two swordsmen, but it was fantastic. That was just the moment of levity that I needed. What I didn't know, though, is Rand has really gotten control of his power. I was so worried about how they weren't training him, sword training, and now they have an opportunity to do it over the next season. But
yeah,
because I was waiting for this moment, guys. I was waiting for him and Turok to have this big fight. And in the books, he's getting training from Lan at the beginning of the book. There's been time that has passed between the events of the end of the book and the events of the beginning of the book, and he's been getting Heron Mark sword training. And instead, he just, in the show, he just gets like a story or two from Errol on a couple of demonstrations. And he obviously had brought his sword back in and been trained before. But I'm sitting there thinking with Turok, I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to either look bad story-wise because he wouldn't have been able to practice any of this stuff, or, and he's just going to be too good for how he should be, you know, or that's what I was thinking it was going to be. And then it turned out just do that. And it's like, I can take Rand being the Dragon Reborn, actually being a little overpowered as a one power user, as opposed to doing what could have been if it was taken from the books. Bubba doesn't care. So,
well, no. What do you want me to say? I said the first episode this guy had appeared in. I was like, why don't we just kill him and get him out of the way?
Bubba agreed with everything you said.
Yes,
Matt, you should be
everything.
Happy.
Reckless speculation. Reckless speculation.
All right, let me make some predictions. So he's the only reason why this Logain character must be in the show. He hasn't done much, but he's got to train Rand. So at a certain point, let's get them together so Rand can get trained in the one power and become good. At a certain point,
or are they going to fall in love?
You know, listeners, I didn't make that poor joke.
Rand and Logain? Hey, it's a free Westerlands. They can do whatever they want.
You know, I'm not saying that I'm against it. I'm just saying that's not going to happen. So let's move on.
I'm sorry. I just been reading fan fiction, and there are like some strange pairings about. Yeah.
Have you been reading it, or have you been writing it?
No, I have been reading it. There is like Matt and Rand are very like love.
Oh, I've seen
couple,
some of those.
Apparently. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me continue saying where the story should go based on everything they've done so far.
No.
So the next
want to
thing
talk about
he's going to be trained. He's going to be trained, and obviously he's going to have some flirty time with Elayne. Maybe if the Aiel are claiming he's the chief of chiefs, maybe he has some flirty time with them too. But the point is, if you're the dragon, the whole reason why you exist is to defeat the Dark One. So at a certain point, probably season 3, he's got to train so he can become good. Then season 4 or 5, he goes and fights this Dark One. And while he's training, he's going to have to be battling all these Forsaken that have been released. That's season 3. There you go.
Okay.
Wow, I think you got it. Got it. Yeah.
Up next is my musical analysis. And that is, I'm sorry, Priscilla, did you have anything else to say about Rand? My bad. I'm completely sorry.
Nothing. Rand has been, I already said, I have nothing against Rand.
Look.
On the contrary, I think he's very sympathetic this season.
I agree.
And reasonable.
Except for the fact that he's got Egwene as a girlfriend. He also has land fear. And now he's flirting with Elayne. Isn't one enough, Rand?
Wish fulfillment.
That's what it was in the
He's
book.
a dragon. He can do whatever he wants.
So, this is the point where I say, well, if they had him aged down, that would be better for this situation, because he doesn't have any idea of what his emotions actually are. But this is driving me a little.
I don't think he still has. He doesn't have anything. He loved Celine at some point.
Yeah,
he
felt a connection with her. I'm not sure it was love, but
he said
he told her he loved her.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, he is a 14-year-old character trapped in a 20-year-old actor. All right, my musical analysis this time around. Well, I know I've talked about Egwene a lot, but we have to, because there was that scene with Rinna, and that portrayal of that theme during that time told me the reason why I went all out when we were talking about Egwene, because the theme basically just fell apart as it went along. So that was wonderful. Also, a couple of themes that we hadn't really talked about this season. Skip ahead about 8 minutes if you're not into the music reborn. One of the more interesting facets of music is the fact that there's relationships between all of the notes as they pertain into the scale, specifically by thirds. When we hear thirds, meaning notes that kind of go every other one, if you were in a scale, it's a step of 1, 2, 3. That's what a lot of our harmony is based on. Lorne does interesting things both harmonically and melodically, in terms of keeping the melodic shape but moving it by thirds in order to create different kinds of feelings. And nothing was more illustrative of that in this episode than the version of Egwene's theme that we heard while she was avenging herself with Rinna. Normally, Egwene's melody actually sits in a minor type of key, and so it sounds kind of like this. Or at least one section of it does. But interestingly enough, if you move that entire melody, keeping the same bass note, but moving the entire melody, the entire what we call melodic shape, the distances between notes, how high and how low they go, and you start it in a different place relative to the major key as opposed to the minor, the notes are completely different and the feeling is completely different, even though the distance between those notes are exactly the same in either the minor or the melody. It's just where they start and how they are related to the root. So I take that exact same melodic shape that I just played, but if I start it on the major third, you get a completely different feeling. That feels resolved, right? And this was the moment where Egwene had essentially become victorious over Rinna. But here's the most interesting thing about this. Lorne actually kept notes from the minor key as the accompaniment. And what that does is it creates this great dissonance to let us viewers know that, yes, we are so happy that Egwene is free, but also there's a lot of conflict in those notes. Think of what she had to do in order to free herself. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, right? And there's no better way to do that than to kind of imply minor and major at the same time. Go back and listen to that portion and you will hear what I mean. It sounds really bad on a piano because you don't have different ways to mix it and it just sounds weird. But just watch that after she has Rinna on that hook and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Consequently, that leads us right into our next thing that we want to talk about, which is really a theme for, I guess, the dragon. Because one of the times that we heard this was actually used for Logain in Season 1, when we were first introduced to him at the beginning of Episode 4. Now, when Rand is approaching Egwene, we hear this same theme. Again, the shape is changed just slightly. One note is played an octave lower. It sounds like this. So that third note is actually being played an octave lower. And what that does is it creates a slightly different feel. We see what Egwene is going through, and as Rand approaches her. And that kind of gives it everything just a little bit more of a tense feeling, as opposed to the way that the theme is normally presented, where that note is actually the highest note that the melody gets to, the third note, like this. And we hadn't really talked a whole lot about this theme. I think I did break it down in the Season 1 coverage, and I know with Bustin' Blockbusters, because we do cover multiple shows, you might have to go back into the feed a little ways. If you're on the YouTube, all of the Wheel of Time is placed on a single playlist, and you can find it back that way. But we have heard this theme in a lot of scenes with Rand this season, and we heard it some, like I said, in Season 1 as well. Finally, let's move to another theme that I haven't talked about at all this season, but it's Matt Cauthen's theme. If you look at Lorne's Season 2 official soundtrack, Volume 1 and 2, you can find instances of it there. One in Volume 1 is simply called Matt Cauthen. And that version is a little bit more bouncy than the version that we heard in this finale episode. By bouncy, I mean the tempo is a little faster, and the meter is different. The original version of the theme is actually in 3/4, as opposed to the 4-count version that we got in this episode. The original version sounds kind of like this. So that sequence of chords underneath is not an uncommon sequence, something that gravitates from the minor to its relative major, meaning it's staying within the key, but it's starting to center around a different note of that scale. One of the things that I absolutely loved about the way that Lorne approached Matt blowing the horn was he actually introduced those chords with very slow cello harmonies playing. You'll hear that it's the same chords, but of course there's no melody present, and because of the different tempo, it has a bigger feel to it, like this. Incidentally, if you want to check out this cut on his Volume 2 official soundtrack for Season 2, you can find it under the title, The Horn of Valere. Fancy that. But the melody is much more drawn out, and some harmony is applied by thirds. But there's also a difference in the chord underneath between what you heard me play the original section, and instead what we call a substitute chord is put in. And just as Egwene's melody moved by a third changes the way that it feels against the root, similarly, moving the root against the same melody can do the same thing, and moving it by a third changes the context. In the original version, we had what we would call a flat 6 chord. But in this version, we get a minor 4 chord. And that adds just a little bit more depth than just the flat 6, because the flat 6 feels like it inevitably has to go back from whence it came, Whereas the 4 chord, as I've mentioned in prior podcasts, sometimes can add a different layer of depth. But the big difference is changing from this chord in that harmony to this chord in that harmony. And that can make all the difference in the world. The functionality of those chords is essentially actually the same, but it's where the root is and the fact that they're a third away from each other, those 2 different harmonies. That's what makes the difference in the way we feel. And that's all I have for this musical analysis. Let's get back to talking about the episode and the season.
What's worse?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's everybody's favorite game. Well, aside from Bubba Has Questions, this is a game where we play like high school debate team, and one of our hosts asks the question, the other 2 must answer it from opposite sides in order to be able to see who wins, which is decided by the person asking the question. This is all the introduction that I do, and then normally I just stick my nose in where it doesn't belong as we go along. But let's begin with Bubba. Bubba, do you have a question for Matt and Priscilla?
I sure do. Guys, what is worse? Is it worse to constantly be taunted and pulled to darkness by a frigging inanimate object, this dagger? Or is it worse to, everywhere you go, you hear Padan Fane's annoying whistle? What's worse? I know what I think's worse, but you guys can convince me. Matt, what's worse? Constantly being called to do evil things by an inanimate dagger, or listening to some jerk whistle all the time? What's worse?
Man, I would never be able to unhear Padan Fane. I just, once it happens, I mean, you think back to all those times in season 1 where it was just Matt and Rand standing around. Yet you hear that, I can't whistle right now, but that just like drives me crazy. It's like Larry, Mo, and Curly coming at you from somewhere visually or audially. You can't find them anywhere. And I think that it is probably a tritone of a pitch also, which of course will drive anyone mad after they hear it enough times. That's all I've got for that.
Priscilla, then what's worse? The dagger calling you to do evil things, or this jerk who won't stop whistling?
Well, I have to argue for the dagger, right?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Because Matt's the opposite.
I took the easy one.
The dagger. Yeah. The dagger. It's only a fancy knife, if you come to think. It's a fancy knife with a curse on it.
Right.
So if you keep resisting to this curse again, and you don't want to touch the dagger, but the dagger insists you have to touch it, and then you have the dagger, basically you have to spend your night with the dagger, and the dagger saying that you have to touch her, touch me. It's annoying. Let's be honest. It's very annoying. And a whistle, I cannot even whistle. I have to admit, I cannot even whistle. But a dagger, what can you do with a dagger? You can either stab your best friend with a dagger, or you can use it to butter bread. So I would say I don't say it's worse, but it's more annoying because a dagger should not be talking to you.
Ooh, Priscilla, that is a great argument there at the end. It won't overcome how annoying that damn whistle is, but I give you props. That was a very good fight. So Matt, you win this. The whistle, it was always going to be hard to defeat the whistle. But Priscilla, you came pretty close.
Priscilla, I commend you for seeing that dagger for what it is, because we all know that the dagger can be damn annoying, especially for us Trollocs. We don't like that dagger at all. We don't like it. But because you were the loser, you are now the winner because you get to ask the next question.
Oh wow.
Okay, so what's worse, being one of the incense-dispensing White Cloak kids and potentially getting run over by a horse, being Child Valda, or being Child Valda getting attacked by Hopper? That's the toughest one, let's be honest.
This is a
Okay,
tough
I'll
one.
go first.
That's the toughest
I'll go
one.
first.
You go ahead, Bubba.
And when you're a kid, what do you always want? You want your iPhone. You want your phone. You want your iPad so you can watch YouTube. But when you're a kid dragged out to the desert and you're told to go, there's no iPhone, there's no Wi-Fi out in the desert. And then what's worse is you suddenly have to start swinging this smoke around. As a child, secondhand smoke is the worst, but it's especially terrible when it's coming from the incense holder you're doing. That is bad for your lungs, bad for your health, and you're actually praying that a horse will trample you. You know what? I say it's much worse to be one of those kids.
Very convincing
Wow.
argument, Bubba. Yeah, very convincing. I
Very
don't
convincing.
know how Matt's gonna defeat that.
Well, first of all, we're going to call this in defense of Child Valda. What has Child Valda actually done to anyone? Okay, maybe he was a little mean to Egwene and Perrin. But think of how mean Perrin was to him once that Egwene got him free. He had every reason in the world to want to find out what kind of evil Perrin is, what makes his eyes go yellow. There's no reason in the name of science Child Valda was going to find out a critical answer that the world needed to know about Wolf Brothers.
Mhm.
But no,
No.
this dog has to come and bite him in the leg, attack him, start to cut him up. He has no choice in there but to call for my absolute hero, Joffrey Bornhold's help to bring the axe. Because also in science, this is the thing. Child Valda is also doing this in the name of science because he realizes that there must be some connection between this devil of a person with yellow eyes and these wolves with yellow eyes. So we need to dissect the wolf also. And therefore,
Yes.
Child Valda is absolutely in the right, and him being attacked by this heathen of a dog.
This is very easy because anything, including Child Valda, is a win. I'm
Whoa.
sorry, so it's Matt.
Curses.
And I have to
Two
say,
for two today, baby.
I have to say that one of my listeners who was like, "Why do you keep referring to Valda as child? Because it sounds very stupid in Portuguese.
It does.
It's like criança Valda. It sounds very stupid. So and I explain it's precisely because it's stupid that I keep that I keep saying, oh yeah,
Sure.
criança Valda this and criança, because Child Valda is like, it's amazing.
What he asked to be called in season 1. I'm only showing the man
It's
respect.
true. Yeah, and he's child. He's the child of the light,
There you go.
and he's the winner
There you go.
every time.
Every time.
Bubba, I actually liked your answer better, but Matt's the boss, so he
Yeah.
gets to win sometimes.
Sure.
Let's see. Here is the final question.
Let's hear it.
I'm gonna ask it because we don't need to hear any more from Matt. We've heard way too much from him in this entire
Amen.
podcast.
Finally, somebody says it. Yeah.
Okay. What's worse?
hmm
Getting an offer to haul away priceless artifacts from Lanfear to throw those artifacts away. I'm telling you that that Coendiar was worth way more than that little bag that Lanfear threw at him. I know I'm not supposed to be impartial here, but I'm just saying. So that's one side of it, the other thing
Yes.
is getting swindled for a poem by some Aes Sedai, which is absolutely atrocious and stupid. Baildamon, how the heck could you? I mean, how could you be so stupid, Baildamon? Who's going to argue which side?
I'll go first and say that the two options here are you're being swindled by Lanfear to throw these priceless artifacts in the ocean, and she's not giving you enough money, or you're being swindled by Moiraine to, get this information and then get nothing for the poem. To me, one is in episode 8, the climax that is exciting, and one is in episode 1 of season 2 and kind of boring. So therefore, I'm going with episode 8. One, you at least get to deal with Lanfear. Yes, you think she's the woman from the town, but getting to deal with Lanfear is the best. So therefore, having to deal with Moiraine for the poem is worse. There it is. The poem is worse. So says I.
Okay, so I will argue against you, which means
yes,
that I'm arguing for culture because it's a poem. So it can never be worse. It's written word. It has rhymes. It's about a legendary Aes Sedai from the age of legends.
Yes.
So it's already better than the other option. So the other option is the worst because we are talking about culture, we are talking about art, and art is always prized. So the poem is better. That means to say that the priceless artifacts, which actually is also art. But anyway, they are worse. They are far worse. We like the poem better. And that's my argument. It's just a comparison. We like the poem better. So that means that it's worse to just being paid less for the artifacts to being dumped in the sea.
All right, Coach Trolloc, any thoughts on these?
Well, they're both very compelling arguments, and I'm not one to judge art. I don't like pitting art against sculpture of any kind. Just folks, just give to your local museums, give to NPR, give to everybody. Just support the arts is what I say. But I have to pick a winner.
Sure.
And I have to say that because, and Priscilla, I apologize, but because the writers did such a poor job of including Trollocs this season in the Wheel of Time, I have to be a little anti-writer right now. They already got their strike resolved. They're way ahead of the actors. I don't even know what to talk about with as far as that goes. They cheated their way back to getting into good graces with the AMTP. Not really, I'm just kidding on that. Anyway, a solid victory for the writers there, which is why they cannot have a solid victory here. Therefore, Bubba, you win.
Yay!
That made no sense, but it's over.
Yeah.
What's worse? What's worse?
Feedback. We have
All right.
feedback here. These were, I did an initial reaction on the finale. Go back one episode on the audio podcast or back to the last We Live Time episode on the YouTube channel. And we loved getting feedback from you this season. I'll continue to take feedback. I may have one or two more We Live Time podcasts coming out because we're running so late here. I don't think Priscilla and I are going to be able to do a book podcast today at the end of this. So what I'm going to do is just encourage you to send emails to mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. You can tweet to @PHQ or use that spelling for all of the social medias. You can also find me on X Twitter @BusBlockbuster. And if you have comments for Priscilla's videos, be sure to check those out as well. YouTube.com. Priscilla TV 1 is that address, and you can leave comments on her videos. Bunch of Roses 83 said this in response to my initial reaction to the finale. I read the series and loved this episode. Had tears when the Heroes of the Horn showed up. Lauren Balfe's score blew my mind. Hopefully, by talking about it in just a couple segments ago will help you with that as well, because that's one of the things that I talked about. Goldilocks Zone 123 says, due to the fact, this might be up your alley. Due to the fact that they split the characters into so many small groups, they didn't have time to develop the plot to explain what was happening. They just had to dump a bunch of facts into the ending. I give it 5.5 out
Whoa.
of 10. Whoa.
Respectfully, I don't think splitting characters up means you don't have enough time to give everybody what you need to. Again, I'll just use Egwene and Elayne and Nynaeve. You know, they get hit with an arrow and then they kind of lay there. And admittedly, we have like 3 scenes of them laying in the street injured, and those 3 scenes altogether may add up at the most of 4 minutes, right? But I still think in 4 minutes you can have them accomplish a goal, something, rather than just, oh wait, we're frozen, what can we do? So I'm sad that this person didn't enjoy it as much as I did. I think that's a perfectly reasonable response, but I also don't think that, okay, hey, just because we took this, we split them up, we couldn't get much accomplished. I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, I would tell you, Goldilocks Zone 1, 2, 3, get ready for a hell of a ride. With characters being apart from each other. That's all I'm going to say without being too spoilery. I hope you come back. Hope you enjoyed it, though. Episode 7, Quark's Bar, 3265. Love Quark's Bar. It's my favorite place on Deep Space Nine. That's where I would hang out. Love this. Says, always look forward to your takes week to week. That eye to the world, to the eye of the world we will go. Christmas ditty from season 1 still sings in my ears 2 years later. Bubba, did you ever even listen to that? Did you ever listen to that podcast? I know you don't like to listen to too many things that you record on.
Yeah, I did not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you're missing out. Priscilla, you probably heard it. To the eye of the world we will go. My little Christmas ditty.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
To the eye of the world we will go.
So anyway,
But Christmas is just around the corner, so we can re-release again, no? We can make a
No, it was a one-time shot. No. It's too close to another Christmas song, so I'm worried about royalty things.
It's not like the Mariah Carey thing every year coming back. Okay.
Yeah, I can't have a comeback with that one, unfortunately. Okay. But thank you very much for the nice comment, Quark's Bar. Yes. Bubba, why don't you help us here with what Silver Scale had to say about our NBR Pod Season 2, Episode 7?
Excellent. Silver Scale wrote, I was perplexed by Swan too, but I kind of get what she's thinking. There is so much unknown and the risk is so high. The plan with Moiraine did fail before, so I understand her falling back on the rules because she does have a big responsibility. However, the rules are ridiculous, and she needed to really talk with Moiraine and not get so dug in against her. It was pretty heartbreaking, and I don't know where I heard this, but what Swan wants to do with Rand, what she thinks the rules say, is to use him as a battery, kind of like the Shan-Chan use women that can channel. It's wrong, so I'm glad that wasn't her go-to before she felt backed into a corner. It's still wrong, but I'm glad it wasn't her first choice. The rest was good. I love Lan. Oh my God. Okay, Silver Scale, you and I'm glad you love Lan. I couldn't get it. Silver Scale wrote, I love Lan, and I'm glad Moiraine finally let him help her. He figured it out right away. Rand was less annoying this episode. Matt, did you write this? You and Silver Scale are one and the same here.
Yeah.
Rand was less annoying this episode. I'm ready to be done with the Egwene Damane story. It's hard to watch. Now, that is Silver Scale. You and I agree on that, especially in a season where they depowered Moiraine almost the whole time. I'm over it. Let's free her and let's go. Well, I love that feedback, even if I didn't see it that way, but I love that you saw it that way. And it seems like you really enjoyed the Lan storyline. So great work, Silver Scale.
And Simply Sierra, 9035, just made this comment. I think we were talking about the Aiel War and what was called the Aiel War. You were asking about when the Dragon Reborn, what caused that war to start and what caused it to end.
I did, yeah.
So they actually put this in the correct perspective from a book reader standpoint, but I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the war wasn't a war at all. They went to kill one guy, and
Right.
after that they left. And Bubba, have you put it together who that one guy was?
I'm pretty sure he was the father, or he was related to Moiraine. He was from her family. I forget if it was her father or the uncle. Yeah.
Uncle.
Okay, uncle. Sorry.
Yeah, uncle.
All right. Thank you for putting that in perspective. Simply Sierra. And on X Twitter, we got a tweet from one of our double L's, Bubba.
Loyal listener Camille, what'd she say?
She said she couldn't get past episode 1 of the new season.
Oh, that's too bad. I understand it, even though I thought episode 1. I do understand that episode 1 of season 2, it did suddenly throw you to a lot of new places, but I wasn't kidding. I point out things that I didn't like, but I want to go back, many hours ago to when I said season 2 was such an improvement on season 1, and it was worthwhile. And if somehow you can get past the kind of, okay, this is where everybody is now set up part of it, I think season 2, anybody would enjoy.
That's at Harley Camille on X Twitter. Has always contributed great feedback for a multitude of shows covered by Double P Media. And we got some feedback in terms of polls as well. We did ask for people to rate the season 2 finale, and the final votes are all in. 69.2% of you loved it so much.
Wow.
And another 26.9% of you thought it was pretty darn good. So that only leaves less than 4% of the group of people who thought it was just okay. Nobody thought it was not very good. So love that.
That's very positive. Yeah.
Very positive.
Keep positive. Yeah, positivity is very important, people.
Absolutely. And another poll, because I couldn't figure out I bailed on making a judgment on our last What's Worse with Priscilla and Bubba in the 7th episode. I decided to put it on the poll and let the people decide. Bubba, you won overwhelmingly by saying that the worst was Lan showing up for your story at all. 87.5% thought that was the case, as opposed to not having Gai'don read.
Yes, love it. Voters got both polls correct. Great job.
And that's going to do it for this time around with Bustin' Blockbusters podcast. Poor Priscilla, she took a couple of knocks this week in the What's Worse stuff. I'm sorry, Priscilla, but you know what's not worse?
It's fine.
With terrible segues, what's not worse is watching your videos where you cover the Wheel of Time and other shows as well. So tell people how they can find you and communicate with you. And are you going to be appearing on anybody else's podcast pretty soon?
You can find me on YouTube, and only on YouTube. No, maybe you can find me also on Tumblr, which is a social network that only people of a high intellect use. I don't know. Tumblr is a weird thing. It got
and a certain age.
It got in trouble because of porn, and it's still there. Porn is still there.
Whoa.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can watch my videos. They are there, and you can interact with me in Portuguese if you can, and in English if you need. But I would just suggest you just to check out the channel like once in a while. And so we are ending Wheel of Time now. I don't have plans to cover another series so far. I like The Boys, but I haven't watched the spin-off of The Boys, and I heard good things actually. So, yeah, I heard good things, so I don't know. But as I said, and I keep saying, the series I really like, people don't watch, so it's a kind of difficult thing.
Now, what series is that?
I like The Serpent Queen. It was a series like a year ago. It was very good. I don't think you will ever get a second season. And Pachinko 2, Foundation, like the second season, was very good. So I hope that we are going to get a third season, but no word yet. I don't know, dude. It's getting weird. Yeah, with the strikes, it's a little bit difficult also to know whether the series are coming back or not.
Bubba. Bubba, people can find you at Fit and Trim on Twitter, correct?
They can. And if you want to talk Wheel of Time in a non-book reader fashion, talk to me. I am very excited about this show and can't wait the 2-year wait for season 3.
3. It's third season. 3 years this time.
Oh,
I'm kidding. So you can find us, of course, at Bust Blockbuster. We want you to check out the YouTube. Please hit the like, subscribe button. Bubba's going to be covering lots of other stuff. We're covering The Crown pretty soon on podcast Lilibit as well, if you want to subscribe to that audio feed, or you will find those videos on the Double P Media YouTube at youtube.com/c/the word double, the letter P, the word media, or you can just reach out to at the word double, the letters PHQ, wherever you tend to stomp around on social media, because Bubba's everywhere. He's like the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-sending Bubba. See ya.
Send emails to mattsaudioblog@gmail.com and find all back episodes and other information at mattsaudioblog.com. Part of Double P Media, doublepmedia.com.